that go over specific things. The 6 specific things that it goes over is alcohol and illegal drugs, hazing, sexual abuse and harassment, fire and other safety issues, travel and behavior at parties. The presentation I'm going to give y'all is kind of going to be similar to what I give to the students. I've gotten a couple of things in the last few years that the risk management presentation gets kind of boring sometimes because the state gives us this presentation and we have to go along with it. And so I try to make it a little bit more interactive. And so I'm going to do some of the same things that I do with the students just to kind of give you all an idea of how we're working with them to prevent high-risk activities. So whenever our students fill out an event request, and many of you probably have seen Wheelhouse that we use, the program that we do event requests on, our students are asked to identify 5 different types of risks and all the different events that they put in on campus. Physical, reputational, emotional, financial, and facilities. Typically what I'll do with students is I'll ask them to give me an example of certain things, so I'll say, what's an example of a financial risk, and one of them will say, buying food. And I'll say, yeah, that's true, because if a student organization goes out and buys like 20 boxes of pizza and like 3 people show up to their event, that's not very good. No one's really consuming the food that they bought, and they just spent like $100. So I always try to tell students that no matter what kind of event that it is, whether it be just a simple meeting or a speaker or all the way up to something like Beto Award, there are some type of risks that go into everything. And so I always try to be proactive with students to kind of let them know all the different types of risks that there are when it comes to planning an event on campus. So real quick, I'm going to start with a few of the bad or the funny event submissions that I get throughout the years. So one of my favorite jobs in working in student activities is seeing all the different really cool events that we have on campus, but also seeing the event submissions that some of our groups turn in that can get kind of comical sometimes. Now some of them are funny, some of them are just kind of like not really broad, not really letting us know what they're wanting to do and stuff like that. But one thing that I'll tell y'all is I don't reveal the names of the groups that send this stuff in, because some of y'all are advisors to these groups right now probably, and some of the students that I present this to were in the room when I was giving this presentation, so I didn't want to put anyone on blast or anything like that. So the first particular event was an event at a golf driving range. They didn't really tell us which golf driving range or what they would be doing or anything like that. They put that the events that they were doing was at a golf driving range, and then for the risks, they put well-known risks associated with playing golf, which, right, Tiger Woods got hurt playing, he hurt his back and his knee and everything, so, I get it. But going to the driving range, there isn't really too much physical risk or anything like that. But, I wanted them to kind of think about maybe the reputational or the emotional or financial risks that come up with kind of creating a group and going off campus and everything like that. And one of the things that it didn't put down was where they went hitting the golf balls. So we're at a couple of driving ranges that we have in Galveston. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And so, I tell our students, be upfront with us. Let us know where you're going, because we know that golf isn't the only thing that people do at Tin Cup. Like when I go to Tin Cup, I don't just play golf, I drink, right? So I'm really upfront with the students and letting us know, hey, if you're planning on doing something like this, you need to let us know where you're going to be, and as well as helping us and helping you identify all the different risks that come with hitting golf balls at Tin Cup and stuff like that. So the next one I had was pretty recently. There was a season of The Bachelor that came out last year, and one of the groups was doing a simple little Bachelor watch party event. I think it was probably towards the end of the season or something like that. And they were going to eat some pizza, gossip about the contestants, and hand out roses to the people. Because when you win The Bachelor, they hand out roses and stuff like that to all the contestants. So I thought it was a really cool event, really interesting. And then one of the risks was someone can choke on the pizza, which, okay. And then people can get upset if their favorite contestant gets eliminated from the show, right? So I tell the students, it's important to kind of identify all the different emotional things and physical and everything like that, but I really want them to kind of make this serious and not necessarily a joke, because it is for their own good to kind of know all the different risks that come with planning events, even if it's something simple like this. One of the risks that they wanted to mitigate choking with pizza is making sure everyone is chewing their food a sufficient amount, and that reminding everyone that it's just a TV show and it's not necessarily worth getting upset over. So I don't know if anyone is emotionally attached to some of the contestants on The Bachelor, but for this event, they would have members to help you out if one of them felt related. The next one was a group went out to the beach to volunteer at a marathon. One of the risks they said was someone falling and eating sand on the beach. And so, how many of y'all eat sand? Are you eat sand? I'm just kidding. So basically, you know, it's one of those things like, well, I don't know how many of the members are actually going to go out there and eat sand. And so it's just one of those things that, you know, let's be real with some of the risks that we have at our events, you know, with the marathon, you know, when they're volunteering, you know, it's early in the morning. Some people might not want to be there, you know, everything like that. So there's always risk with something, but eating sand. This last one was an event out by the library. They were giving out like Chick-fil-A or whatever or something like that. And at the top, they don't really list the activities or anything like that. They should have put something like, you know, we're giving out a free Whataburger or anything like that. And, you know, they put some of the risks like choking and allergies and, you know, stuff like that. But they also put things like fire and riots and emotional distress and everything like that. So me personally, I don't know anyone who's going to riot over having free Whataburger or Chick-fil-A on campus. Although I do understand obesity at the end. I guess if you eat enough Whataburger, you can, you know, you'll gain a little weight. You know, like kind of what I do. But basically, you know, just being real with us, letting us follow all the different physical, emotional, reputational, financial, and facilities risks that are with our events. So we'll go ahead and move on real quick. So the first thing that I'm going to kind of talk about, the first thing that's required by the state for me to talk to students about and talk to advisors is alcohol and illegal drugs and all the penalties that come along with it. So I'm going to talk about all of the different laws that there are as far as alcohol use for, you know, underage and, you know, students that are over 21 and everything like that, as well as the penalties that come with the actual act if they were to be caught by the campus police or Galveston police or wherever it is that they are. So, you know, public intoxication occurs when a person appears in public while intoxicated due to the degree that the person may endanger himself/herself or others due to the impairment of mental or physical faculties. And so this was one of the questions that I got a lot in this presentation that I gave a few weeks ago to our students. Some of them don't necessarily understand exactly what public intoxication is. So they had questions about, like, what if I went home from Mardi Gras that night? Am I going to get arrested for public intoxication? And, you know, the big question is, you know, were you so drunk to the point where you were endangering yourself or other people? And most of the time the answer is no, right? So a lot of times, you know, the best way for students to do this is just to keep an eye on how much they drink, you know, and everything like that. You know, Mardi Gras is definitely one of those things that it's very enticing to have a drink because, one, it's easy to find underage alcohol at Mardi Gras, I know that. And then two would be there's a ton of it and it's not super expensive. So it's just one of those things where, you know, we need to talk to the students and make sure that they know to handle themselves and take care of themselves and their friends and everything like that. And the cop, if they were to catch you, they don't have to give you a breath test and to show that you're intoxicated. Most of the time, they'll let you sit in jail unless someone can take you home and everything like that. So students, it's just something that we talk to the students about. So I also mentioned two things about minor in possession and minor in consumption. The minor in possession is if a student is found to be in possession of an alcoholic beverage, and then minor in consumption is pretty, you know, self-explanatory. And we go over the penalties for giving alcohol to minors. And so the presentation that we give is mostly to students who are 21 or over. Not necessarily all of them, but a good amount of them are of drinking age. So we talk to them about what the penalties are for giving alcohol to underage minors, basically, or any like freshmen or sophomores or anything like that. And so the last thing I'll always say, and I'll kind of touch on this a little bit at the end, is the fact that if you're having a party at your house, you're responsible for the people that are found, you know, drinking there. So we'll tell the students if they're having a party at their house and the cops show up, they're giving alcohol to freshmen and everything like that, the people in their house can be held responsible. Another one that we talked about that's pretty important, especially with how Texas A&M Galveston is situated in Galveston, is driving while intoxicated. So with TAMUG being on an island off of an island, pretty much the only way to get to and from campus is to drive. And so this is definitely a really important one that I go over with them a little bit. I talk about all the different the punishments and everything like that. But you know, the big thing is driving, you know, making sure that you've got a buddy with you that is sober. I also tell them that Uber started back up in like February or something like that. So there are ways to make plans, and I always tell them to keep an eye out on that little bulletin board that's over Harborside. You know, it says something like, you know, make plans before you can, or something like that. So I kind of remind them that if you're going to go out to something like Mardi Gras or anything like that, that you make a plan to get home before you get too drunk. And so, and then the other things would be, you know, I talked a little bit about this later on, and a little earlier too, is the fact that if the student is driving while after drinking and is under the age of 21, if they blow .01, they're in trouble. Yeah.
Do you know anything about how much our students are drinking and driving? I know that apparently Harris County leads the nation of all counties in drunk driving rates, and always has, like for 2 generations.
Yeah.
I don't know if that transfers to our campus at all. I don't know if it's contagious, or
Well,
some of our students are from Harris County. But
right, and I don't have any specific, I don't have any kind of specific stats to show
it's
you.
not part of that report that comes out once a year. That's not one of the things that goes in it.
The Cleary report?
Yeah, it's not.
I don't think so. I don't think it is.
Unfortunately, that's just who's being caught.
Yeah, and exactly. You know, that's the thing too. Most of the students here at A&M Galveston, and not all of them, they're mostly traditionally aged college students, aged 18 to 23. Not all of them are doing it, but you bet a lot of them probably are. And so I always kind of, when I did this presentation, I talked to them candidly about alcohol use, drug use, and everything like that, because, you know, I was in college, all of us were in college, and I understand the temptation that comes with drinking underage. And so that's just one of those things we talk about, especially with DWI, especially, you know, we let them know that if you take a little sip of alcohol, if you have a beer, or have a, you know, shot or whatever like that, and you're under 21 and you decide to drive home and you're pulled over, you're done.
Well, I have another question, because I've been on this for years. When I played football, especially college football, there were guys taking steroids illegally, really bad. But it was understood, the trainer made it clear, the trainers all did this, that you need to tell them so that you live, if something happens, they don't do the surgery, you die because you're on steroids. Right. So there was this rule breaking by the trainers that they did it publicly. Mm-hmm. We don't have a TAMUG Uber that goes and gets drunk students, because we'd have to report that they're drunk. We can't not narc on them. And so they're